Thank, thank you so much. Thank you for being here with me at this Zoomposium. And the title of my presentation is a bit of a punchline spoiler. Can you see me just fine?
Yes, we can see you.
Excellent. The title is Something Between Nothing at All and Something Possibly Dangerous and Potentially Transformative. So what happens at the intersection of conceptual art and teaching? The answer probably ranges from not much, right, to something possibly dangerous and potentially transformative. There are those who believe concepts don't really do much, but concepts create systems and forms that have long-term impacts. For instance, I hear art teachers talking about how students need to know foundational skills to be able to create anything of their own choosing. These educators state that students need to know how to use the tools correctly before breaking any guidelines or rules. And I include myself as having said these statements more than once. However, there is power in misusing a tool or creating new tools from the very outset of a project. I've written elsewhere, see Barney and Graham, 2014, that even the concept of a foundations in art, for instance, largely determines what forms are generated within such an imagining. A foundation is well suited in constructing a solid, immovable building, for instance. However, it is a terrible beginning for a boat or a spaceship. The concept of a foundation makes perfect sense until it doesn't. And then there is context. Beyond the conceptual framework in which a work is conceived, Alan D'Souza explains, where and how we encounter artworks are crucial to how they are activated. The studio, the exhibition space, and the accompanying catalog and the museum and the monograph become archives of artworks whose contextualized and context-specific displays profoundly affect and inflect how we engage with individual works and their interrelations aesthetically, temporally, materially, and socially. However, we are just as if not more likely to encounter artworks online, where the work might be removed from any initial artistic or curatorial framing, or be entirely recontextualized and dehistoricized. This very Zoomposium and subsequent book are cases in point. So returning to the discussion concerning the teaching of tools within a particular conceptual frame, I ask, what if tools are thought of as props? Props that are used to create propositions, for example. This speculation perhaps relates to D'Souza's statement, shifts from what artworks are to what artworks do, and how they come into being, doing, have major repercussions on how contemporary viewers, or rather interactors or enactors, engage with, assess, and continue to think and act upon these works. I recently asked my students to misuse a tool to go on a walk. I took on the same propositional challenge using my otoscope, a medical device that is designed to look into one's ears. And I used it as a video camera that turned me into a documentary filmmaker of sorts. I got to know my own body, creating an intimate coming to know one's self-portrait. I shot this micro video in relation to one particular ant, the insect, as it went on its own walk through the neighborhood in which we both reside. Getting to know my own body intimately and crawling through my neighborhood on hands and knees while following an ant for an hour certainly wasn't a comfortable proposition. Megan Bowler argues, however, as cited by Julia Singh in 2018, that a pedagogy of discomfort may in fact be not only desirable, but ethically imperative. For Bowler, pedagogies of discomfort emphasize the bodies and materialities that both make life possible and differentiate, often radically, some lives from others. Practicing and teaching our discomforts can be acts of learning to live with the ambiguities and uncertainties of our complex ethical entanglements. Teaching discomfort, then, is an act of uprooting our deeply felt, but often deeply buried discomforts. It is a way, in other words, of making discomforts conscious to those who embody it, as well as to those entangled with it in more or less complex ways. Crawling through one's environment with a prop as a sort of tool that teaches through discomfort is highlighted by artists like William Pope L., who has been crawling through various sites using props such as a stuffed animal, a brown suit, a Superman costume, a potted plant, or a skateboard strapped to his back. His performances are both public and embody a pedagogy of discomfort, as they are a doing for all those who, as he calls it, have lost verticality, a term that he uses to describe being wealthy enough or healthy enough to remain upright and in motion. This social geometry is Pope L's way of exploring inequalities that are often obscured by layers of complicity, guilt, inaction, and a sense of inevitability. So asking our students to misuse tools or to even create their own tools in order to propose alternative or more expansive structures and forms also asks students to transgress public spaces. This is indeed a pedagogy of discomfort, but it is what artists do. The artist Mike Kelly, in an interview with Ralph Rugoff, said, "As an artist, you actually live in a very public environment. That's your job. That's why the myth of the artist as somebody who lives alone in some garret is absolutely ridiculous. Artists are some of the most public people there are. We create as artists and we make those creations public. Our artworks are a type of proposition where the prop is reimagined anew, used or misused to generate a different kind of foundation." So I ask, is birthing an alternative to a foundation or expanding or flexing or folding a structure or system a consequence worth taking? Is it too dangerous to abandon or adjust our tried and true tools, our structures, systems, foundations, and gestures? The artist Patricia Piccini proposes a different query when she states, "I am particularly fascinated by the unexpected consequences, the stuff we don't want, but must somehow accommodate. There is no question as to whether there will be undesired outcomes. My interest is in whether we will be able to love them." So I ask, do we love what our work does? Can we love what our art does? In 2003, Clara Liden performed a vivid dance in a Stockholm underground train. She flings herself around in the coach using seats, poles, and the dirty floor as her supports. Gradually, she sheds her clothes to a country music soundtrack. Daniel Birnbaum explains choreographing her dance to the layout of a commuter train. Liden has attempted to reappropriate public or privatized urban space. Besides the political undercurrent, an underground carriage provides the livelihood and sometimes the home for a small proportion of inhabitants of major cities. In terms of busking and begging, the dance was energized by an anti-modern and even utopian wish to make things improper. But the coup de grace of this ecstatic underground ballet, an apt example of the young Swedish artist's ferocious, contentious, and urgent practice, is its prescient reminder of what tends to happen when one attempts to reorient accepted codes of behavior in a pseudo-public space: nothing at all. And that is where my presentation ends. So what happens at the intersection of conceptual art and teaching? Something between nothing at all and something potentially transformative. Thank you very much.